our galaxy. Our galaxy then may perhaps be around 125, 130,000 light years across it in diameter, but then once we leave our galaxy out into free space, there are billions and billions of galaxies. We have no concept of the idea or the size of the actual universe itself. So I don't think that you could even express it in light years. Probably if you shot a beam of light from our galaxy in a particular direction, if it would continue on forever, it could be countless billions and billions of light years before it would ever even reach, any sort of edge to our universe. And again, an edge doesn't exist because it seems to be in a spiral type shape. Okay, Billy is led out to a spot telepathically by Semjase where he sees a hole burned in the ground where it looks like a saucer has landed. It's about 4 meters in diameter. And they're also around the center hole. It looks like there's about 4 other landing tracks where it looks like the landing gear of a ship may have set down. But it doesn't look like a landing tracks from the Pleiadian beam ships. Also, he starts looking around. It's in the snow around the ship. And he finds footprints leading away from the ship, one of them leading down to a stream and coming back. He finds some footprints that disappear off into the forest and come back. One set of footprints have no trail at all. Just a few meters, about 100 meters away from the ship, there's just one set of footprints in the snow with no trail leading. So how does someone make footprints in the snow with no trail? Looks like they just popped right out of the air and stood down in the snow and then disappeared. Semjase explains that there was a very small dwarf race who became lost in time and came into the Earth atmosphere. They had set down there, finding themselves in a rather strange place. They decided to collect some samples and try to figure out where they were. And the footprints that Billy has seen is these little dwarf beings going out to collect samples in the trees and in the water and so forth to ascertain more about the planet. The unusual set of footprints where there was just one footprint in the snow far away from the ship, she said that while 2 or 3 of the dwarves were out collecting samples, that one of them was kind of posted as a sentry, and he was floating or flying around in the air, and at one particular spot he came too close to the ground and actually sat down in the ground in the snow for a minute and then flew back up into the air. Apparently what had happened is that these were a race of people who were just developing time travel and had made a mistake, an error in their calculations, and had greatly slipped out of time when they were in hyperspace and found themselves on Earth way out of their own time frame. Semjase remarked that Ptah would help them, that he would make some efforts to find out where their galaxy was, and then he could return them in his own ship. He could return them back to their own time. That would be possible. Normally, if you're in a ship on your own and you go into hyperspace and you vary the speed of your particles, like we talked about earlier, if you lower that speed too much and there's too much variance, remember you'll slip in time billions of years and you're going to have almost an impossible time ever finding your way back. So here's a situation where that actually happened. On the 70th contact, which was on Thursday, January 6, 77, here we're almost up to an anniversary contact, because Billy's contact started on January 28, 75, so we're almost 2 years now into the contacts, and we've had 70 of them. Billy had some questions about atoms and molecules. He'd remembered that Semjase at one point had told him there was some molecule that had 49 atoms in it, and he wanted a lengthier explanation about what that was. She said, well, that's a most unusual molecule because when spiritual energy is formed, that the first molecule, the first primary steps and beginning of formation of spiritual energy is a molecule formed of 49 atoms in it. Now, the atom itself, she said, is not pure material. Our scientists are still thinking of it as all coarse matter, that an atom is completely solid matter, but it is not. She said that an atom is actually a crossover, and the crossover was the phrase they used, that an atom is a crossover between material matter and spiritual energy. That both things go into comprising an atom, but our scientists have not discovered that yet. Atoms can be explained, she said, in sevens. The Pleiadians call it the sevens of the synthesis of matter. That atoms actually have 7 planes to them. Currently, our science seems to be aware of 2 levels. In other words, 2 breakdowns of what an atom, what is inside of an atom. There are 7 levels. The 7th and the 6th level, she says, are now aware to our science, that we figured out the 7th level of what's inside of an atom. And we've even become some aware of the 6th plane, which is composed of elementary particles. But she says, at least as of 1977 here, that our scientists currently are confused by the 5th plane. It's a mystery. Now, we're up in 92 now, so I don't know how we may have advanced in those areas. But she says they also have to discover that there are 4 more planes down, 4 more different levels breaking an atom down as you go smaller and smaller into matter. There's also, aside from that, a microatomic plane besides the normal atom planes. So apparently there seem to be subdivisions of the atom which follow the same premise that the universe does, breaking 7s down into 7s. She says, but mainly what has to be discerned as we move along is that atoms and matter are not the only thing. This is where we actually discover technically what spiritual energy is, when we start breaking down the atoms. Well, Billy wants to play a joke on his friends, and after this contact comes to an end, he says he sees on the screens that his friends are waiting for him down in the coal down below. They've had to drive about 20 miles from home, actually 20 kilometers it says. These Europeans and their metrics. He's about 20 kilometers away from his home, and he wants to play a little joke on his friends. So he asked Semjase if she could set him down in a field close to home, back close to home, so he wouldn't have to go so far, and he would call on the radio and let his friends know where he's at so they could come and pick him up. Well, he does that, and Semjase takes him back close to his home, sets him down in a snowy field, in the middle of a field with snow, and he calls his friends on the radio. Well, they come to get him, and not only are they kind of surprised somehow that he could get back the 20 kilometers back to home, but how did he wind up out in the middle of this field with no tracks out to where he's standing? So he quite often did this and had a little fun with them. On Billy's birthday, which was February 3rd, 1977, was his 72nd contact. By the way, that's his birthday where he turns 40 years old on that birthday. It was at this particular occasion that Semjase again reiterated to Billy that it's time to move out of Hinwil. Hinwil is Hinwel, and this is where Billy's lived for a long period of time, and he's been living there so far all through the contacts. But she's telling him that it's time for him to move, time for him to find a new place, and she says she shows him a map to help him decide where it is that he should move. On this, it's not actually a map. Billy has a map with him of Switzerland, and inside of the ship on one of the side screens, she is showing him the different locations in Europe and the problems that are going to arise in the next few years, which should dictate where he moves. And she's showing him on the screen, says, here's an area where there's going to be a lot of very strong earthquake activity. You don't want to move there. Here's an area where there's actually going to be a volcano uprise in Switzerland. That's currently, apparently, we're not aware of at the moment, but there's going to be some sort of volcano in Switzerland which is going to erupt, causing a major loss of life. She says along this flat zone in the northern part of Switzerland, you want to avoid this because it's going to be destroyed by fire during the coming war. Apparently, our next war, there's some new devices going to be used that set the atmosphere on fire. A lot of firestorms in the air burning the ground. It's interesting that an unrelated set of information which comes from the Nostradamus papers, which many people have made their own versions of, that many of them agree that Nostradamus talks about the Chinese inventing new weapons that ignite the atmosphere and cause these firestorms also. So there might be some correlation here between Nostradamus